You should see it out there. They're all going crazy for you. They're saying you're a bad influence on me. Well, guess what?
That's life. That's life. Funny as it seems. Some people get their kicks just stepping on a dream.
Writer-director Todd Phillips returned for the follow-up to his 2019 hit film Joker, which went on to become the biggest R-rated movie of all time at the box office and won a slew of awards. The long gestating sequel is finally here to tell the next chapter in the Joker. But not really the Joker you're thinking of. This is the origin story of Arthur Fleck and how he influenced Gotham to rise up against the societal norms as the city lays in ruin run by the rich. After the previous movie finished with Arthur Fleck in jail, this picks up 2 years after the events, seemingly offering an insight into Arthur's mental health concerns, causing his personality to fracture, and the creation of the Joker persona responsible for the horrific murders. Or is it all Arthur? This is an interesting premise and could have been explored well. Unfortunately, the unwillingness of this director to find a genre and stick to it causes the film to feel as fractured as Arthur Fleck's personality. Folie picks up 2 years after the events of the first film. Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, is locked up in Arkham Asylum, awaiting a psychiatric assessment to determine if he can stand trial for the murders he's committed. Every day he's accosted by a group of guards led by Brendan Gleeson, who try to get Arthur to tell them a good joke, while torturing and degrading him. While walking through the prison one day, Arthur sees Harleen Lee Quinzel singing in a room. She chases him down the hall and does the signature finger gun to the head motion that we've seen in the first film. Arthur is suddenly yanked out of his isolation and his Joker persona seemingly comes back to life. After being deemed fit for trial, Arthur Fleck stands with Harvey Dent, played here by Harry Lorty, leading the prosecution. Arthur struggles with his Joker persona and convincing the jury that he's responsible for the murders and not Arthur Fleck. Now this is all encouraged by Harleen, played here by Lady Gaga, who falls in fast love with the Joker and hatches a plan for the pair to run away together and build a mountain. The film has been presented as a musical, and the casting of Lady Gaga cemented hopes that this would be a fully fledged superhero musical, something we haven't seen before. Disappointingly, this is not the case. The musical sequences feel half-baked. They're meant to symbolize the growing romantic obsession between Harleen and Arthur, while providing an escape from the reality of his bleak existence in prison. While these scenes do provide some sense of hope in a really bleak and depressing story, it doesn't commit to it enough to be an effective part of the film's story. My biggest complaint here is casting Lady Gaga in a film and having Joaquin Phoenix sing more than she does. Now look, Phoenix isn't bad per se, he's just not the main attraction for the musical performances here. It feels unnecessarily restrained, almost scared to go all out, and the transition between these musical numbers and the courtroom drama can't help but give this feeling of having an identity crisis. The first half of the story desperately wants to explore Arthur Fleck's psyche and the mental illness to determine if the Joker is actually a fragmented part of his mind that heralds back to the abuse from his childhood. The musical numbers and fantasy in his mind are designed to be a manifestation of this. It's such a shame that the film abandons this about halfway through, intent on having an explosive final act that ultimately means nothing. Gaga's Harleen is horrendously underutilized here. Her screen time barely edges out 30 minutes in this 2.5-hour bloated mess. While her scenes do make an impact and she does deliver one of her best performances, even with the limited material she's been given, it still very much is a Joker film, with Phoenix delivering a great duality of the withdrawn Arthur Fleck and overconfident Foghorn Leghorn style Joker character who really comes alive in the courtroom. I'm so glad that this confusing era of DC superhero films has finally come to an end. Joker Folie Adieu marks the end of the previous management era, with the newly formed DC Studios not endorsing or putting their logo in front of this movie, and this is a sure sign that their confidence in the quality of this story and how it may land with general audiences. Fans of the original film will find the tone confusing, and the decision to add in half-baked musical numbers will only isolate them further. Everyone else along for the ride may suffer whiplash from the sudden tonal shifts and over-bloated runtime that serves as one of the low points of DC superhero films. The Joker is definitely me for believing that this sequel would be any good. Before we go, I do want to note that for our Australian audiences, putting the theme song to Kath and Kim, The Joker by Shirley Bassey, as a musical number will no doubt have Australian audiences giggling as Phoenix attempts to deliver a sobering rendition in a serious part of the film. This is no fault of the filmmakers, but it definitely takes you out of the film. Joker Folie Adieu is in cinemas